Hello everyone. I'm so glad to see you again in today's video. As always, I'm bringing you another heartfelt story, revolving around the journey of a single mother, Hoai Ca. Hoai Ca's life is not only about the hard days working in the fields or carrying heavy baskets of vegetables on her shoulders, but also about the hidden sorrows, the quiet sacrifices that few truly understand. Today's story will reveal more unexpected turns in her destiny, where faith, love, and resilience always walk hand in hand. So, what lies ahead for Hoai Ca? What events will make her heart waver even more? Please stay with us until the end of the video to feel and walk alongside the character, and don't forget to leave a comment with your blessings for Hoai Ca. That morning, the courtyard of the commune office was livelier than usual. From early on, villagers eagerly gathered for the meeting. Old bicycles stood in long rows under the eaves, while a few dusty motorbikes leaned against the wall. Elderly men in faded brown shirts walked slowly with canes. Women in their traditional babiye outfits bustled in, still holding baskets of vegetables hurriedly picked from their gardens. Children ran about outside, giggling, until their mothers pulled them back to sit quietly. Altogether, it created a familiar yet vibrant scene, filled with hope for today's meeting. Inside the hall, the space was small but orderly. Wooden benches, polished smooth from years of use, lined up neatly. On the stage, a green chalkboard hung solemnly beside the striking red flag with a yellow star. The old ceiling fan creaked as it spun, sending down cool breezes that pushed away the morning heat. Comrade Min, tall, slender, with a stern face, stood up to preside. His voice was loud and steady, deliberate yet weighty, commanding the hall into silence. Next to him was Hung, in his neat police uniform, face serious, eyes sharp with a strong sense of duty. Beside them sat Mai, a young officer newly assigned to the commune. Her hair was tied back neatly. Her eyes still carried some nervousness but revealed clear determination as she jotted notes continuously in her notebook. Min began firmly. Today, we gather to discuss important matters of the village: poverty reduction, road improvements, encouraging children to attend school, and especially the fight against smuggling, which has caused much concern recently. The hall buzzed with murmurs. Some villagers nodded, some whispered, others frowned with worry. At that moment, Hung stood up, adjusted his uniform, and walked forward. His eyes were resolute, his voice rang out clearly, each word steady. Our people should focus on their work without fear. As for stopping smugglers, I will take responsibility. But for real effectiveness, we need everyone's cooperation. Information must be communicated clearly, so people understand without confusion or anxiety. His decisive words quieted the room. Then came murmurs of agreement. Elderly men nodded repeatedly, while young villagers looked at him with trusting eyes. Just then, Mai, though a little hesitant, spoke up with a gentle but firm voice. I think we should prepare very simple, easy-to-understand guidelines. For example, like a daily rice jar savings model, so people can both remember easily and follow practically. I'm willing to draft it with clear examples for everyone. The hall burst into light laughter and approving nods. The idea, simple yet practical, eased the tension, replacing it with warmth and closeness. Comrade Min looked at the two of them, a faint satisfied smile appearing on his lips. He nodded slowly and said, "Very good. When there is unity, anything can succeed. I believe our village will change day by day." Applause broke out, echoing with hope throughout the hall. On every face glowed the belief in a brighter future, poverty gradually driven away, children attending school, and smugglers no longer threatening their peace. The meeting ended in excitement. Outside, the morning sun shone brightly, lighting up every radiant face. Villagers walked home together, chatting non-stop, hearts filled with expectations that from today, their homeland would change, through small but meaningful actions, tied closely to every home, every rice field, every familiar village path. After bidding farewell to Comrade Min and Mai at the hall's gate, Hung straightened his uniform, raised his hand in salute, and calmly walked away. Instead of taking the main road, he turned onto a familiar narrow path leading back to the village, the same path that had accompanied him since childhood. Every step on that dirt road seemed to bring back memories of carefree days playing with friends, of laughter echoing under the bamboo groves. That morning, the sky was clear and high. The newly risen sunlight, thin as a golden silk cloth, spread across the land. Through the gaps in the bamboo leaves, beams of light filtered down, scattering into shimmering streaks on the ground still damp with night dew. A gentle breeze stirred, rustling the bamboo leaves as if whispering a hidden secret. From afar, sparrows chirped, wings fluttering as they called their flock, blending into the lively sounds of a rural morning. Occasionally, the clattering of wooden clogs and the shouts of children heading to school rang out, mingling with the faint, earthy scent of straw drifting in the wind. Hung inhaled deeply, savoring the freshness of the morning air. Yet inside, his heart felt heavy. Thoughts crowded his mind. How can this road be fixed soon, so the children won't trudge to school covered in mud? How can the villagers work in peace, without being lured by smugglers with short-term profits? And how can I keep this homeland safe, free from the shadows of those who spread fear? His brows furrowed, his face tense. Though he knew the path ahead would be difficult, his eyes still shone with determination, the resolve of a soldier who had chosen to protect his people, even with his own life. His footsteps carried him toward a familiar bend. But the closer he got, the stronger his unease grew. At this hour, he should have heard roosters crowing, children laughing, or the chopping of knives from the kitchens. Instead, silence blanketed the area. The once radiant sunlight was swallowed by dense foliage, leaving a dim, shadowy gloom. The cheerful birdsong had vanished, replaced by an eerie stillness. Even the wind seemed heavier, its whisper through the bamboo no longer playful, but sharp and ominous, like a warning. A soldier's instinct sharpened within Hung. He stopped, leaning slightly forward, eyes scanning swiftly around. His hand instinctively touched his side, where his familiar sidearm rested. His breathing slowed, ears straining to catch the faintest sound. Suddenly, a strong gust swept through, scattering dry leaves that spun in the air before landing with a rustle, like footsteps. Hung narrowed his eyes. And then, just ahead, at the edge of the thicket, he caught a glimpse of movement. A shadow flickered, someone ducking quickly out of sight, leaving only the blur of motion before disappearing. His heart skipped, sweat forming at his temples despite the morning chill. Clenching his fist, he took a deep breath, slowing his steps but keeping them steady. With each step toward that shadowed bend, the air grew denser, suffocating. And Hung knew, danger was waiting just ahead. The road ahead was suddenly blocked by large logs. They lay piled up, rough, covered in moss and dirt. Nearby, several big rocks were scattered, as if a landslide had just occurred. But Hung's seasoned instincts told him at once, this was no accident. Everything was too neat, too perfectly timed. He stopped short, eyes sharp as blades scanning the surroundings. His hand hovered near his waist, every muscle tensed, ready for the worst. The air seemed frozen, broken only by the pounding of his heartbeat. Suddenly, from both sides of the thicket, heavy footsteps thundered. A chorus of chilling shouts shattered the silence. More than a dozen figures rushed out, wielding wooden clubs, some swung wildly, others pointed straight at him. Hung reacted like lightning. He twisted to dodge the first strike, shoved a club aside, and delivered a fierce punch that sent one attacker crashing to the ground, blood spraying from his nose. Without pause, he spun and kicked another hard in the stomach, dropping him to his knees, groaning. Shouts, the clash of clubs, pounding footsteps, all blended into chaos. The bend in the road had become a battlefield. Hung fought with precision, each strike powerful and exact. Sweat poured down, mixing with his ragged breaths. But they were too many, and well prepared. They took turns swinging, blocking his escape, tightening the circle. For every one he knocked down, 2 or 3 more surged forward. Clubs rained down mercilessly, each blow numbing his arms. Blood seeped from a wound on his shoulder, staining his uniform red. His breath grew heavier, his strikes slower. Then suddenly, from behind, a hulking figure, hidden until now, swung a club with brutal force. The crushing blow landed on his temple. A blinding burst of sparks exploded before his eyes. His ears rang, the world tilted. Blood streamed down his face, blurring his vision. He staggered, fighting to stay upright, but his body betrayed him. His knees buckled, and in an instant, he collapsed onto the cold, hard ground. The thugs exchanged quick glances, shouted a few words, then fled into the brush like phantoms. Silence fell again, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the faint drip of blood soaking into the dirt. At that very moment, a young woman returning from the market happened to pass by. On her shoulder she carried a basket of fresh vegetables, humming a familiar folk song, her voice pure in the morning air. As she approached the bend, her smile froze. Terror filled her eyes at the sight of a man lying motionless in a pool of blood. The basket slipped from her shoulder, vegetables scattering wildly across the road. Her heart raced, her face turned pale. "Oh God! Sir, are you all right?" she cried, her voice trembling. She dropped to her knees, hands shaking as she tried to rouse him. Hung was barely breathing, his face ghostly pale, blood soaking his body. Panicked, tears brimming, she leapt up and ran frantically, shouting down the road. "Help! Someone's badly hurt! Please, help!" Her desperate cries echoed through the village, shattering the deathly silence of that fateful bend. The road ahead was suddenly blocked by massive logs. They lay piled up, rough and heavy, covered in moss and dirt. Beside them, large rocks were scattered as though a landslide had just struck. But Hung's seasoned instincts told him immediately, this was no coincidence. Everything was too neat, too well timed. He froze, eyes sharp as blades scanning every direction. His hand hovered near his waist, his whole body taut, ready for the worst. The air seemed to hold its breath, broken only by the pounding of his heart. Suddenly, from both sides of the brush came the sound of rushing footsteps. A chorus of savage shouts tore through the silence. More than a dozen figures burst out, wielding clubs, some swinging wildly, others thrusting straight at him. Hung reacted like lightning. He twisted aside to dodge the first blow, knocked a club away with force, then drove his fist into an attacker's face, sending him crashing to the ground, blood spraying from his nose. Without pause, he spun, delivering a sharp kick to another's stomach, dropping him to his knees, groaning. Shouts, the clash of wood, pounding feet, the bend in the road had turned into a battlefield. Hung fought fiercely, every strike powerful and precise. Sweat poured down, mingling with his ragged breaths. But the attackers were too many, and too well prepared. They took turns swinging, blocking his way, closing in from all sides. For every man he felled, 2 or 3 more rushed forward. Clubs rained down relentlessly, the impacts numbing his arms. Blood seeped from a wound on his shoulder, soaking his shirt red. His breathing grew labored, his blows slower. Then, from behind, a hulking figure who had been waiting in ambush swung a club with brutal force. The crushing strike slammed into Hung's temple. 1,000 sparks exploded in his vision. His ears rang, the world spun. Blood streamed down his face, blinding his eyes. He staggered, fighting to stay upright, but his body gave way. His knees buckled, and in an instant, he collapsed onto the cold ground. The thugs exchanged shouts, then fled back into the brush like shadows. Silence returned, broken only by the rustling wind and the steady drip of blood darkening the earth. At that very moment, a young woman returning from town happened to pass by. On her shoulder she carried a basket of fresh produce, softly humming a familiar folk tune, her voice bright in the morning air. As she neared the bend, her smile faded. Horror widened her eyes as she saw a man lying motionless in a pool of blood. The basket fell from her shoulder, vegetables scattering across the road. Her heart pounded, her face went pale. "Oh God! Sir, are you all right?" she cried, her voice trembling. She dropped to her knees, hands shaking as she tried to rouse him. Hung's breathing was faint, his face ghostly white, blood soaking his clothes. Panicked, tears welling, she jumped up and ran, screaming down the road. "Help! Someone's badly injured. Please, help!" Her desperate cries echoed through the village, shattering the deadly silence of that fateful bend. Inside the stark white hospital room, the neon lights cast their glare onto the cold tiled floor. The steady beep, beep, of the heart monitor blended with the pungent smell of antiseptic. Outside the window, the late afternoon sky turned a pale yellow, the shadows of trees stretching across the thin green curtain. After hours of tense emergency care, Hung stirred. His heavy eyelids slowly lifted. The harsh light made him frown, his forehead was wrapped thickly in white bandages, his face pale, drained of color. He tried to sit up, but pain tore through his body as though every limb was being ripped apart. A faint groan escaped his cracked lips. By the bedside stood the village chief and the young woman who had saved him. Their faces bore clear traces of worry. The girl clutched a basket of vegetables still covered in soil, the very basket that had followed her into the hospital, a silent witness to that fateful moment. Her eyes were red, her trembling hands unsure where to rest. The chief stood with his arms folded, exhaling heavily, his voice choked. "Hung. Heaven must still have mercy, sparing your life. The moment I saw you, I knew it was you. We've worked together many times, I could never mistake you. I'll report the news to your family right away, so they can rest assured." Hung startled. With effort, his bandaged arm reached out, grasping the chief's hand tightly. His eyes gleamed with resolve, his voice hoarse. "No. Please, don't say a word. My wife, Hoai Ca, if she knew, she would worry herself sick. I can't let her suffer more. Please, keep this secret." The chief froze, his thick brows furrowed, his voice faltering. "But you're gravely injured. If something were to happen..." Hung pressed his lips together, swallowing the waves of pain tearing through him. He locked eyes with the chief, each word sharp, like a vow. "Please, treat this as if I've been sent on duty to a remote area. When I recover, I'll return myself. I won't let my family shed another tear because of me." The room sank into silence, broken only by the steady rhythm of the heart monitor. The chief gazed at the battered yet steadfast man before him, and slowly nodded, his eyes filled with both respect and sorrow. Closing his eyes, Hung drew a deep breath, then pulled a phone from the bedside drawer. His trembling fingers typed slowly, but his eyes shone with determination. The message was sent. "My love, I've been assigned a mission deep in the remote areas. There's no signal there, so it may be a long time before I can contact you again. Don't worry, I'm still fine. Take care of your health, and look after mother and our child for me. Back home, Hoai Ca was setting the dinner table when the phone rang. Wiping her earth-stained hands, she picked it up and read. Her eyes blurred with tears. Fear welled inside her at the thought of her husband being sent away on duty, yet at the same time, that message was her only comfort. She whispered to herself, "As long as he's safe, I'll wait. No matter how long it takes." Her frail hands gripped the phone tightly, her heart aching. She had no idea that at that very moment, her beloved husband had just escaped death's door, hiding his wounds and bleeding heart, all to shield his wife and child from another burden of worry. Hung still endured in silence, hiding his pain. Each morning, as the first rays of sunlight slipped through the cracks of the window, he would quietly lean against the wall, gazing out at the small vegetable garden. Every breath was heavy, every sudden stab of pain from his wounds left him drained. Yet in his mind, only one thought remained: as long as I can endure, as long as I'm alive, I will return to my wife and child. The road to recovery was far from easy. The wounds on his body could be treated, but the dizziness, the fragmented memory, sometimes clear, sometimes gone, tormented him the most. At times, he dreamed of seeing Hoai Ca's figure, hearing the laughter of his child echoing in his ears, but when he opened his eyes, there was only empty silence. The loneliness of not being able to share his suffering with his beloved wife tore at his heart, but still he kept it hidden, unwilling to add to her worries. In the modest village house, the presence of the kind-hearted girl was like a warm flame in the cold night. Every day she came by, bringing baskets of vegetables, bundles of firewood, or packets of herbs wrapped in banana leaves. Patiently, she lit the stove, cooked hot porridge, carefully brewed medicine, then sat quietly as each drop fell, the fragrance of herbs filling the room. When she changed his bandages, her hands trembled, but her eyes brimmed with worry and tenderness. Each time Hung clenched his teeth, bearing the pain without a sound, her heart tightened. The stronger he seemed, the more compassion she felt. What began as simple kindness from a stranger slowly grew, through days of closeness, through glances that met by chance, into a faint, unspoken feeling. Pity, affection, and a lingering ache, like a seed quietly sprouting deep in her heart, though she dared not call it by name. The village chief often stopped by. Each time he witnessed the scene, he remained silent, watching, then sighed quietly. He knew Hung's heart was still bound to his family, yet he could not ignore the young woman's devoted care, her quiet affection. He kept the secret, but in his heart arose a foreboding that the days ahead would not remain so peaceful. Would Hung ever fully recover while shouldering all the pain alone, hiding everything just to protect Hoai Ca from worry? And the young woman, who had given her all to rescue him, tending to his every meal and restless night, would her devotion remain mere compassion, or would it kindle into something deeper, a quiet bond that might entangle both their hearts? Stay tuned for the next episode, where kinship, sacrifice, and the fragile human heart will be tested by fate.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đang làm video cho một cái tinh thần khá là vui vẻ. Chúc mọi người có một ngày vui vẻ luôn nha. Hiện tại thì mình vẫn đang edit video. Bây giờ là 5 giờ 51 phút. Mới đầu là mình tức là 17 giờ 51 phút đó mọi người. Khi ban đầu thì mình muốn là mình sẽ lên video này vào lúc 18 giờ, nhưng mà có thể nó bây giờ sẽ không kịp lên vào lúc 18 giờ nữa rồi, nên là mình sẽ lên vào lúc 18 giờ 30, hoặc là mình sẽ để sang đến 7 giờ sáng hôm sau thì mới lên video. Mình hy vọng rằng video hôm nay sẽ mang lại nhiều niềm vui cho mọi người hơn, và chúc mọi người một ngày thật là vui vẻ, hạnh phúc, và hãy theo dõi kênh của mình và đón xem kênh của mình nhé. Chúc mọi người một buổi tối vui vẻ. Chào tạm biệt, hẹn gặp lại trong những video sau. Bye bye.